Okay, video number 3. As I've stated, we had made an appointment with Mr. David Bates-Haley, which we attended and he attended. During this appointment, we discussed at length why Grant wanted to close down the account. During the meeting, Mr. Bates-Haley was very, very agitated, to the extent that at one point, because my grandson thought Mr. Bates-Haley might attack me, he remonstrated with him and told him to sit down and calm down. Nonetheless, Mr. Bates-Haley, after it was fully explained to him what we intended, left, went back, and came back with a form which my grandson signed, and we left the bank. We're in the full knowledge that we had closed down the account. My grandson turned around to me and said, "Grandad, that's it, I'm finished now. I never want to hear anything about it again." I'd explained to Mr. David Bates-Haley that the direct debit now would be taken from my Santander account. So I went up to my Santander bank in West Bromwich and asked them to take the money from my account there. But unfortunately, as my grandson and I were very naive, and Mr. Bates-Haley must have known, it was up to Lloyds to organise the taking of the money from an account. So I was busy that day, so some days later I returned to Lloyds and said, "Look, please take the money that me and my wife used to pay and was now paid from my grandson's account. Please take it from my Santander account." Whereupon Lloyds explained to me that, Mr. Bates-Haley explained to me that it could only be taken from a Lloyds account, which I was quite concerned about, because I said, "Well, why didn't you tell us that in the first place?" And again, it was pointless discussing it because it was just arguing. How he got his job with the bank, I don't know, because he's a very excitable person. Anyway, the situation was that the loan could only be paid from a Lloyds account, and Lloyds would not let me pay it from Santander. My grandson, who was under the impression, which was more than given by Mr. Bates-Haley, that the account was closed and he would have nothing to do with me. So I was in the position of a loan payment that should have been taken from my grandson's account. I was now under the impression that the account had been closed. My grandson had nothing to do with me anymore, or his nan, and the loan could not be paid. And I explained all this to Lloyds, and I am quite sure that as Mr. Bates-Haley and his staff were admonished for the cock-up they made over my grandson's account previously, where it was drained of money, I'm quite sure that Mr. Bates-Haley knew what would happen, and I'm also quite sure that the complaints officer at Lloyds, who had his bum kicked up, he knew as well. Anyway, the ridiculous situation was that I had a Lloyds loan, but they would not let me pay it, and I had no way of doing anything about it. So there we are. That's I think that concludes this video, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one if you're not too bored.